What's up, guys, and welcome back to another Chelsea news video. Now, this one is not going to be as transfer rumor focused as the last few have been. There just hasn't really been that many rumors going around, substantial ones at least. There's still the daily Haaland shit. Is he going to sign? Is he not going to sign? But there hasn't really been that much going on besides that. So I'm going to avoid that in today's video and focus on the recent news that's come out regarding Hudson Odoi's future and the plans him and Tuchel have for the upcoming season. And I'm also going to be discussing and giving my thoughts on the apparent exodus of the youth academy after Gurhi's moved to Crystal Palace, and him apparently being followed out the door by a further 3 of our most promising youth prospects. If you're new around here, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with new videos as the season approaches, and drop a like if you enjoy the video. Now let's get into it. Alright, so I'm going to start things off by talking a little bit about the Athletic article that came out yesterday surrounding Callum Hudson-Odoi and his future at the club. Now, I don't want to say I told you so, but every time an article has come out saying Chelsea are looking to sell Hudson-Odoi, I've said that I think it's complete bullshit. I think in the last week alone, I've seen Chelsea include Hudson-Odoi in Haaland bid, Chelsea looking to swap Hudson-Odoi with Bayern Munich winger Kingsley Coman, and Chelsea make Hudson-Odoi and Tammy Abraham available for transfer. So it is nice to finally see that his future, at least for the short term, is at Chelsea, which for me is a positive. I think him and probably Kai Havertz are my 2 favourite players in our team at the moment. The Athletic are reporting that Chelsea have no interest in letting Hudson-Odoi leave this summer, and Thomas Tuchel sees him in his plans for the upcoming season. Now, despite him being one of my favourite players, as I said before, I'm under no illusions that his performances have lived up to the initial hype and expectations we all had for him when he first broke through in the team when he was 17 under Sarri. He's had a pretty, I guess, drama-filled career, as short as it has been so far. He's had on-the-pitch issues with ongoing injuries, the main one being that torn Achilles that he picked up when he was finally starting to break into the starting 11. Then there's all the off-the-field stuff, and boy, is there a lot of that. The constant transfer speculation, getting COVID, then breaking COVID restrictions, and a few other legal issues I'd rather not get into, which for sure would have negatively impacted him. However, the one benefit of him breaking through into the team at such a young age is he's still got so much time on his hands, so we shouldn't be writing him off yet. He's still only 20, which is the same age that Mount was when he broke through in the team under Lampard, and still 2 years younger than Tomori and Tammy were when they did. So the pitch stuff is behind him now. If you follow him on Insta, you'll have seen the extra work he's been putting in this preseason, which is going to be huge for him. I think this is probably the first full preseason he's had since he first broke it through into the first team picture. Touch wood, hopefully I haven't just jinxed it. He's now going to pick up an injury in one of these preseason friendlies, and he really needs to make the most of it, which it seems like he is. He was one of the first players back in training with Tammy and Andrew, and he really needs to make an impression on Tuchel and prove that he should be getting more game time, especially whilst Werner, Mount, Havertz are still on holidays after the Euros. And I don't think that's too much of an ask for him. We know just how talented he is, and we've seen Tuchel give him these opportunities in the past. For the first 3 months of Tuchel's reign, he played 13 games and looked like he was finally starting to build some momentum, whether he was deployed as a right wing back or in a front 3. And as I said before, I don't think he's lived up to that initial hype we all had for him, dropping the next Hazard tag and all that, but I don't think he's been as bad as some people have been saying. He's like almost an elite ball carrier and dribbler for someone so young. 11.87 progressive carries per 90 and 0.23 expected assists. I think the only real weakness in his game now that he has improved defensively is his finishing. Now, this is a bit of a concern I've had with his game since he first broke through. I'm not claiming to be the next Guardiola or something, but I've never been sold on the way he strikes the ball, and I really do think it hinders his finishing ability. He strikes the ball with very little backlift, which in itself is actually a good trait to have if used in the right circumstances. The best example I can think of is Aguero, who used to use his short backlift to get shots off in the box where there wasn't really space to do so. But the technique Hudson-Odoi uses doesn't allow him to generate enough power and accuracy for my liking. I'll try to put a video in if I can, but he's always looking to caress the ball into the far corner by opening up his right foot. And if you go and watch most of his Chelsea goals, none of them are particularly great finishes, and most of them aren't even in the corner and probably should have been saved if I'm being completely honest. The opening up technique he has is definitely a good one to have in the locker and definitely has its purposes. His goal against West Brom is a great example of that, but it's sort of his go-to in situations where I don't think it should be. And if he is able to improve his finishing and his movement in the box like Pulisic has since he moved from Dortmund, then he really does have all the tools to become one of the most dangerous wingers in the Prem. Sometimes when you watch him, he's a little too stationary. He gets caught ball watching when he doesn't have the ball or just after he's released it, instead of anticipating and positioning himself in a place where he's able to receive a cutback at the back post or somewhere where the ball's gonna land if it turns into a bit of a fuckfest in the box. A weird comparison, but a little bit like Alonso does. He just has that knack of knowing where the ball is going to end up and finishing it, but definitely don't look to emulate any other parts of his game, please. So Hudson Odoi has a big preseason and year coming up, potentially make or break for him. I would love to see him finally knuckle down, improve, earn that starting spot in the team this season. I think he's definitely good enough to do that. And I think it's really just up to him and his application, whether he wants to make it to that really elite level. It's not going to be easy for him. He's got plenty of competition ahead of him in the pecking order. Havertz, Mount, Ziyech, Pulisic. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what he can do this season. Let me know what your thoughts are on this news and if you think he has what it really takes to make it at Chelsea. Alright, so I've talked about a youth product that's staying at the club, and now I'm going to discuss the recent news that's come out surrounding 4 who are apparently set to leave the club. The first being Mark Guehi, who we've already seen confirm his move to Crystal Palace for somewhere in the region of 20 odd million. Lewis Bate, Tino Livramento and Myles Peart-Harris. And I have seen some Chelsea fans getting a little bit concerned that so much young talent is supposedly leaving only 12 months after things were looking so promising when Lampard was in charge. Now I'll start off with Guehi and his move to Palace. Now out of the 4, this is the one I'm definitely most disappointed about. We've seen many fans disappointed in the sale of one of our other young centre-backs, Tomori, but personally I think Guehi's even more of a blow. If you saw any of my keep sell loan videos, you'll know I was actually in favour of letting Zuma leave and promoting Guehi to the first team this season. Obviously that ain't going to happen now, but I do understand from a financial side why this deal was done. It's a decent deal for both teams really. Palace get a young, promising English centre-back for a decent fee. We get 20 odd million of pure profit on a youth product who at the current moment in time is unproven in the Prem. Do I think he's good enough to step up? Yes, but clearly he didn't see a pathway to the first team. He only had 2 years left on his deal, so we were only really left with one choice if we wanted to get any cash for him. Now there is a matching rights deal which is a bit confusing at a sell-on percentage in there, so that initial fee could still go up. The matching rights thing seems to be really confusing for people with no one really understanding what it means except for what it says on the tin. My interpretation of it is, let's say City bid 40 million for him in the future and we match it. I think they have to accept our deal and reject City's. If it was just that we get to match any deal and that's it, I don't really understand the point of that, because we can literally do that with any fucking player at any time we want. And I've also seen a few people asking why we never really put buyback options in these deals, and the straight up answer for that is that the buying clubs just wouldn't accept that. For example, Palace are buying Guehi for what is still somewhat of a risk at 20 million, knowing that if that risk does pay off, then they should be making profit on that initial investment. And why would they limit the amount of profit that they could potentially make just for Chelsea's gain and no one else's? Especially when we aren't really in the driving seat for negotiations. He only has 2 years left on his contract, and if we had a better bargaining position, then there would have been more chance of a buyback clause being inserted. As disappointed as I am to see Guehi leave, he clearly hasn't seen a pathway to the first team, and he's bet on himself to go and prove that he's good enough on his own accord, and all we can really do is wish him the best of luck, and hope that if he does continue his progression, and we do have an opportunity to bring him back in the future, that he would want to come home. Bate, Livramento, and Peart-Harris are also not in the same position as someone like Guehi. These guys have zero first team experience playing men's football, except for the odd Papa John's trophy and making the bench a few times in the cup. Of the 3, I'd probably be most disappointed if Livramento was to leave. He's been linked with AC Milan, Leipzig, Aston Villa, and the reason I'd be most disappointed if he was to leave, as well as being probably the most promising, winning our Academy Player of the Year, I think he's also got the clearest path to the first team. Yes, he's not going to have been thrilled by the rumoured Hakimi interest, but now that he's gone to PSG, the only real players in his position are Reece James, yes I understand, and out of position Hudson Odoi and Dujon Sterling, who's a real blast from the past. I think he's 22 or 23 now, but I would keep my eye on him. Apparently Tuchel has been impressed with him in pre-season, and I wouldn't be surprised if Livramento was to leave if Dujon Sterling was our backup right wing back going into next season. I'll put it this way, I know he's got years on these guys, he's still only 18, but if he can't force his way into the team and get any game time, over Hudson Odoi, who's probably going to be pushed further forward this season, and aging Asp, and Dujon Sterling, who's coming off a very disappointing loan move to Wigan in the Championship. I know he was injured during that, and if he isn't willing to go on loan to continue his development, then it probably is best for both parties if we do let him go. As I said before, let him bet on himself, see if he can get the game time he thinks he deserves. I'm not 100% sure he's going to get that at Milan and Leipzig, if I'm being honest, and probably Villa as well. But if he thinks he will, then good luck to him, and that's all we can really do is just wish him luck. I'm even less concerned about Bate and Peart-Harris. Apparently, Bate has told the club that he doesn't want to extend his deal despite being offered one, as he believes he's not going to get the first team opportunities he desires. Apparently, he's super highly rated by Chelsea youth coaches, and I have seen some fans losing their heads over this one, which I sort of understand. But how many youth product centre mids do you want at the club, let alone centre mids in general? Everyone loves Kante, so that's one. People have their opinions on Kovac and Jorginho, but you've got to at least keep one of those two, so that's two. Then there's Mount, nothing needs to be said about him, that's three. Billy Gilmore, we all love Gilmore. 4, Conor Gallagher, who's apparently been impressing in pre-season and has actually played men's football and proved he can play at the Premier League level after 3 impressive loan spells with West Brom, Swansea and Charlton. Then there's the likes of Loftus-Cheek, who we all love. And we can't have a team of 47 centre mids who all came through the youth academy, as much as I'm sure we'd all like that. I've seen people saying that some coaches regard him as a better player than Gilmore, which I'm extremely skeptical about. At the same age, Gilmore was tearing apart Liverpool and Fabinho, whilst last January, Bate was getting loan interest from League One clubs. Now, of course, I'm not saying he's a bad player, far from that. I'm sure he's got a great future in the game. But not everyone, as I said before, is going to make it in Chelsea. And if he thinks he's got more opportunity of making it at another club, then all power to him. I think he seems like he's close to joining Leeds, which I think is a good move if it does come off. Apparently Liverpool and Leicester were also interested, which in my opinion would make no sense. I think he's just as likely to get first team opportunities here as he would at those two teams. And just quickly on Peart-Harris, it seems he's leaving for Brentford, which with Bate is a great move for him personally, but this one I honestly don't mind at all. He plays attacking midfielder, he's just never going to get into the team over Havertz, Mount, Ziyech, Pulisic, Hudson Odoi. The list just goes on, and we've even got better prospects coming through in the same position. Tino Livramento being the prime example of one of them. And that ties nicely into my last point, which is don't get too concerned about this youth exodus. Yes, we'll probably lose a few good prospects, but we still have plenty of good young players coming through the pipeline, whether that be a Armando Broja, who's just signed a new 5-year deal, or, as I just mentioned before, Tino Livramento, who signed a 5-year deal 12 months ago. So don't get too concerned about it. There's still plenty of talent lying around at the club that is either broken through or is going to come through in the future. Now, that's all I've got for you guys in today's video. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on the Hudson Odoi news and the supposed youth exodus. And are you concerned about it? If so, why? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to stay up to date with new videos. Cheers for watching.